Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Before we get started with today's video, if you are new here, please do hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit like on the video because it lets me know kind of what type of content you really want to see and what kind of thing you want to see maybe more of. But as you can tell from the title of the video, I'm actually going to talk to you about my labour story, which feels a little bit crazy because it was a little bit crazy, but let's just have a chat and let's get into it and find out about my labour story. I'm pretty sure the week before or the week leading up to me going into labour, officially going into labour, I was having contractions, but they weren't really ramping up into anything to be concerned about, so I wasn't really overly concerned. If you've watched my third trimester video, what I will do is, if I remember, I will leave a link to my first trimester, my second trimester, and my third trimester in the description box down below, so you can go back and have a look at those. But basically, in my third trimester video, the last clip that I filmed was me sat in my bedroom saying to you guys that my waters had broke and we were going to the hospital. So let's pick up from there. So I woke up on the Monday morning and this was about 7:15 and my waters broke in bed. As soon as my waters broke, I initially, quite rightly, had the thought process that, oh my gosh, I'm wetting myself. And then when I laid there and I thought about it and I went, I can't stop it. Like, I tried to stop myself. You know how you do, you can stop yourself going to the toilet. I tried to stop myself and like it wasn't happening. And then it was gushing and gushing and gushing. And I was like, I can feel like pressure is like, it's like a relieving feeling. It's not like when you've been going to the toilet, like you've been holding on for a wee all day and then you go. It's not that kind of relief. It just felt good. There's no way of describing it other than it felt good. And I proceeded to wake Jay up. I was like, Jay, my waters are broke. Now, Jay had been woken up by me a couple of times, well, multiple times throughout the last couple of weeks, where I was saying to him stuff was happening. And it was almost like the boy who cried wolf, because even though stuff was happening before, Jay wasn't like taking the urgency of like my waters had broke. So he was like, you're fine, just go back to sleep. And I was like, dude, my waters have just broke. Like, no, this is happening. Like, my waters have broken. And he was like, oh crap, okay. So basically, if your waters break, you have to go to triage. So he phoned his mum because we needed someone to come and sit with Archie. So he phoned his mum and he was just like, Lauren's waters have broke. We're gonna like, there's no hurry. We're gonna see what happens. He then got up and he started to get himself ready. And then I was like, dude, no, we need to go to the hospital. Like, I'm literally sat at my beauty desk, I am putting on makeup, we've got to go to the hospital, I've got to get checked. And he was like, oh yeah, you do. So he phoned his mum back and he was like, hey, sorry, like, can you come over so that we can go to the hospital? Jay's mum came over. I wasn't really having any contractions, I wasn't really having anything. I had like stomach ache, but when you're that heavily pregnant, you do just have stomach ache. It's a normal thing. And I got in the car with Jay and we went to the hospital and we went into triage and they basically were like, do you have a pad on? So they wanted to take my pad to check for amniotic fluid to see if my waters had broken. And they basically did it. They looked at the pad and they were like, there's not really anything on it. We can't really tell. We don't really think your waters have broken. And I'm like, I know my waters have broken. So it was a little bit frustrating that they didn't really want to take my word for it that my waters had broke. And then they were like, okay, go to the toilet and then give me another pad that they'd given me and was like, let's test that. Gave them the second pad. They were like, no, can't really see anything on it. What we'll do is we'll just hook you up to the machine anyway and we'll just see what's been going on. So bear in mind my gestational diabetes readings as well. I kind of knew something was going to happen because for 24 hours before my waters broke, my readings were all coming back high and it was just really random. I was eating the same food and it just didn't really make sense. So they put me on a machine and they were monitoring the baby's movements. And I was having contractions, like I could see on the screen, like I had on the Friday and then like I had on the Sunday. I could see on the Monday morning, like it was showing that there was contractions happening. And I basically passed the reading on the machine and then they were like, okay, so we're probably going to have to do an internal swab if you're happy with that. It's not pleasant, but it's bearable so that you can find out whether your waters have broken or not. Even though you know they've broken, they need to do it to be able to see that they it's happened. So got undressed, let them do the swab. Once they'd done the swab, they were like looking at the readings as well on my thing, and they were like, yeah, like you're definitely, something's happening, like your uterus is contracting and stuff. Are you in pain? And I was like, not really, like I can feel it, but it doesn't really hurt. Like the readings are going up quite high, but I'm not really bothered by it, and like they just wear off. And she was like, okay, cool. So she was like, you're definitely in labour. And then she looked at the swab and she went, yeah, your waters have definitely broken. She was like, so the choice is yours. You can either go stay in the like stay here and go for a walk around the hospital, see if you can get your contractions to keep going, or you can go home, which would be our recommendation, because you're likely to like progress quicker at home, because your oxytocin levels will go through the roof when you're at home where you're comfortable. So Jay and I were kind of just like, okay, we're not really sure what to do. And she was like, well, we're kind of really busy in triage today, so like the choice is entirely up to you, but like it's not going to be like a pleasant wait. You're going to have to like not necessarily be in a bed and stuff. Like you'll be in the hospital, but it's not going to be comfortable. So she was like, the choice is entirely up to you. We said, well, look, we've got a toddler at home, let's go home. So we were driving home, and as we were driving home, I didn't really feel anything. I was getting like pains now and again, but because I was so scared of if my contractions like officially started or if I had a big gush of water again, I was too scared to get out of the car when we stopped to charge it to get some like food or to get a drink on the way home. I just couldn't bring myself to get out of the car. So I sat in the car, and then we officially came home and we came in and I ate some food. And the thing that's frustrating as well is when you're in like you're going into labour, you're like you want to fuel your body so that you can get through it, because you know it's going to be strenuous. But with gestational diabetes, you can't really do that. You still have to be really good with what you're eating. I ate some food, and then we just basically waited. I did lots of bouncing on the ball. I did lots of standing up. I did some dancing with Archie in the living room, and I did lots of like moving around. I basically tried to stay as upright as I possibly could, and then contractions started. So we started tracking them on the app, and I have still got the screen. I think I've still got it on my phone. So I will insert the screenshot of like the contractions that we've got on my phone. There was no set pattern at all to what was happening, and even the app was going, there's no pattern yet, like just keep doing what you're doing, like there's no need to go to the hospital yet, there's no set pattern. We basically just were waiting, because the hospital had said, when the midwife discharged us, she said, we want 3 or 4 within 10 minutes. My stomach's hurting whilst I talk about this. It's really funny. So we stayed, we were just pootling along. Contractions ramped up very quickly, very fast, to the point where I was stood, and when the words come out of my mouth, Jay, I don't think I can do this, that is when I should have gone to the hospital. But because we were being good and we were listening to what the medical professionals had said, and because the app was saying to us, no, you're fine. And then we checked in with Jay's mum, and she was like, she's a midwife, and she was like, well, if that's what they've said, like don't worry about it, just keep doing what you're doing. But the contractions then, they were so quick. They were so fast, they were so painful. And I remember going upstairs at one point, because I was like, we need to go to the hospital, but I want to like freshen up. So I went upstairs to the bathroom, and I went to the toilet, and then I tried to get in the shower. And as I was trying to get in the shower, I remember I had the most intense contraction known to mankind. It hurt so bad. I literally was stood in the bathroom, and I'm pretty sure all my neighbours would have heard. I was screaming for my husband, but he couldn't do anything because he was downstairs with the dog and the child, like my Archie, and he didn't know what to do. So I was stood there, and then in the shower, I genuinely thought I was going to give birth at that point in the shower, because it hurt so bad, and there was so much pain down below. So I quickly got myself dressed again, and I was like, Jay, we need to go now. He phoned Triage, and they were like, oh yeah, we can hear her in the background, and she's saying that she feels like she needs to push, because my body was telling me it was time, I needed to push, and like there was no stopping. It was no, we're gonna do it. I had probably about 3 of those contractions where I myself wasn't pushing, and I was trying my utmost, because I wanted to be at hospital to give birth. I was trying to do the opposite of what my body was trying to do at the same time, and it was painful, and I could just feel this, like it was happening. We phoned them, and they were like, yeah, we can hear in the background, like you need to, just come to the hospital, just drive safely, just get to the hospital, it's fine. So then we waited for Jay's mum to come over to sit with Archie so that we could go back to the hospital. So she came in and she was like, can I feel your bump whilst like you're having a contraction, because I can tell you whether you're going to make it or not. Because literally before she came, my body kind of like took over. I had this weird, I felt possessed, and something literally, I felt like I didn't have any control over what I was doing. And I took my trousers off and I took my underwear off, because I was literally like, it's happening, like I can feel so much pressure down below, I need to get this off. And Jay was looking at me like, Lauren, do I need to call an ambulance? And I was like, I think you might need to, because I don't think this is going to happen at a hospital. I think this is happening now. Like, I don't think we're going to make it. His face dropped. He then panicked. He went into absolute panic mode, because everything that he's seen or experienced with me with labour. So when I had labour with Archie, I lost a lot of blood. When I had my surgery to remove my miscarriage, they kept me in after the operation, they kept me in the area before they take you back to the ward for a while. So longer than they would normally expect because of the bleeding. And they came to check on me and they were like, yeah, you have had like a lot of bleeding. So Jay was expecting like the worst case scenario of like, it's very dangerous for me to give birth at home. He was panicking. His mum came in, she felt my bump and she was just like, okay, like I can't feel anything really at top. Like there's nothing really going on at the top. Like the contractions were just really weird. They weren't the same as like they were with Arch. With Arch, you could feel like they started at the top of my bump and they worked their way down. This time they kind of just were down below. It was really weird. It was just down below and it was happening. So we literally, I remember I left, and you have all these visions and you see all these clips online of people being like, they hug their like firstborn but like to say goodbye, and they say that they love them, and then they get in the car and it's all like nice and chilled. It was not chilled for us. I was like, no, we need to get in the car, we need to get to the hospital, we need to leave now. So I literally just remember picking my water bottle up, and I just remember walking out the house and getting in the car. And then I remember sitting in the car and I just kept saying to myself over and over again in my head, do the opposite of the contraction. Do not let your body push. Do the opposite, do the opposite, do the opposite. And I just remember driving the whole way there with my eyes shut. And then I would now and again open my eyes to see how far away we were from the hospital. I remember driving, I remember looking, and we'd left, like we saw the barriers to the outside of our village. I remember seeing that. And then I remember opening my eyes again and we were at the big roundabout by the A5. And then I remember opening my eyes again and we were like partway down the A5, and then that is where my body took over and I had no control and I started pushing. I couldn't communicate with Jay at that point. Like I wasn't able to talk. I was literally just in a zone, focused of trying to do what I could to control my body to not allow to give birth. But it's a natural thing and your body will start to, like it did for me, start to push, and it felt like my body was naturally pushing the baby out whether I wanted to or not. And that was terrifying because we were partway down the A5 and I remember looking at the clock and it said 12 and we were 12 minutes away, and I was like, I'm not going to make it. And I was terrified because I was like, the only experience I had was when I gave birth to Archie. It wasn't quick, but I bled quite a lot and it was terrifying in the moment, and I needed stitches and I had to be hooked onto TXA, and I was in a car. Like that wasn't happening. So we were driving. I remember getting off of the A5 roundabout, and as we got off the A5 onto the roundabout, which was where we needed to be to get to the hospital, I remember I just bent to the floor because my phone was on the floor, and I remember picking up the phone and I remember dialing Triage. And every time I've dialed Triage previously, they pick up like after the second ring, like it's really quick. It just kept ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing. And in my head, I'm going, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. Jay's going, what's wrong, babe? Like, what do you need me to do? Like, what, Lauren, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you talking to me? What are you doing? What's going on? Like, he was just in an absolute state. I felt for him so badly. Like, it must have been awful. And I just went, just ignore me, just keep driving, I'm phoning Triage. And I was like, because I think I'm crowning. And he was like, what do you mean you're crowning? Like, what do you mean you're crowning? You can't crown, like, you can't, you're in the car, you can't. You need to get to the hospital, like, we need to get to the hospital. You can't push, you just need to, like, not do it. And I was like, I have no control at this point. I was like, my body's doing it. So the phone didn't get picked up, so I then dialed again. And a health support worker answered the phone, and they were like maternity triage, health support worker. And I genuinely feel like I might have shouted at the lady, and I really feel really, really bad to this day about it. But I remember just trying to get across to them really quickly. I was like, we are just round the corner of the hospital. Please, can you meet me at the front door? I'm going to cry. I haven't spoken to anyone about this. And as much as I'm like trying to talk through it, I think it really scared me because so much could have gone wrong. I remember saying to her, can someone meet me at the front? Because I think I'm crowning my baby's head and I'm scared. And I was like, I think my baby's coming. I think my baby's coming, and we're just around the corner from the hospital. I remember we got to like the little roundabout from outside the hospital, and I had to like, I just needed to get up out of the seat. So I lifted myself up out of the seat, and at that point we just got into the hospital. I remember Jay driving into the bit out the front of the hospital. I flung the seatbelt off of me, and I was like, I'm not going to make it out of the car. Like, I can't stand up. My body's literally pushing. So I just tried to like take my trousers off, because I was like, I know that this is going to happen now. It's going to happen in the car. So I was like pulling my trousers down. I was pulling my pants down. I got them to about my knees, I think. So I didn't really get them very far. I remember looking into the door, and I remember Jay being stood inside the hospital entrance, just stood there. And I remember him shouting up the corridor, being like, please, can you help me? Or like, help my wife, help my wife. And it's really busy at this point. There's those people stood outside. There's like people stood at the side of the car, like looking at me. And like looking back now, I'm a very self-conscious person, but like in that moment it was just like I'm so out of it because I'm so in so much shock. And then I remember seeing it as soon as a midwife got up to the side of the car, they like literally are running towards the car with like towels and stuff ready. They get to my door. I open the door, and as I open the door, I just remember I just let go down below. Like, I think I was clenching my muscles so much that I just let go, and the baby came. And speaking of, so baby came, and at this point the midwife was like, okay, baby's here. And so then she literally like pulled the baby out from like down below. He was already out, but like she was just moving him so up to me. She put him on my chest, and at that point I think I went into absolute shock. And I just kept repeating over and over again, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I was like, what have I just done? I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And she was like, it's fine. She was like, you've just had your baby, like it's amazing, you've just had your baby. And she's just like, what? In an absolute state. I could see Jay pacing backwards and forwards outside the car, and I remember him saying that a guy walked past him and he made like a really weird, inappropriate joke at that moment in time, and Jay was like fuming. And I just remember saying to the lady, I was like, am I bleeding loads? She was like, no, there's a little bit of blood, like you're not bleeding loads, like you're fine. And I was like, I'm meant to be on TXA. And she was like, it's fine, like don't worry. She was like, you're not bleeding loads, like you're okay, you're not bleeding loads. And I was like, can you tell my husband? And she was like, no, we're focusing on you right now. I'm like, no, seriously, you need to tell my husband that I'm okay, because he's thinking I'm dying right now. Like, you need to tell my husband I'm okay. And then she's literally like trying to talk to me, but I just kept repeatedly saying over, tell Jay I'm okay, tell Jay I'm okay. And she just went, can someone tell the husband? Can someone get dad and just like check him? So then someone goes over to Jay, and then as soon as I see someone's in front of Jay, he throws his glasses to the floor. That he told me this after, that he threw his glasses to the floor. And then at that point they had to try and get me out the car, and so they were like, right, baby's out, let's clamp the umbilical cord. So they did that, and then they were like, Dad, do you want to cut the cord? And he's like, no. And he's like, he stood at the side of the car and he's cutting the cord. And then they get me out of the car, and that's like the weirdest feeling ever, because I just feel like my arse and everything else is on show, and there's people all around us. But I think they held up towels to get me onto the wheelchair. They put me on the wheelchair, and I just remember as well, it felt the weirdest feeling was, so I had still the umbilical cord that was attached to the placenta inside of me was like underneath me, and I was sat on it with a clamp, and that was the weirdest feeling ever, just being sat on it. Hey yo. Shh. It's okay. You're okay. You're waking up. And they then wheeled us up the corridor. Jay was in an absolute state still. He was holding the baby. They wheeled us past triage all the way into labour ward, and it felt like the weirdest feeling ever, because then they put us in a room, and it was like, I just kept repeatedly saying over again, what on earth has just happened? What's just happened? And people just had to keep going to me, you've given birth in your car. Like, you've just given birth outside the hospital in your car. I don't know how I managed to keep the baby in until the entrance to the hospital. no one, like, I genuinely don't know. I think we got to the crowning stage and I think I just was so terrified that I just kept breathing rather than trying to push and like not allowing my body to push. But then they, as per my birth plan, which I have a video for previously which I've spoken about, so I will leave a link to that down below, that's when the rest of the birth plan kind of kicked in. So I had the injection to have my placenta come a little bit quicker. That felt more painful than when I had Arch, but looking back now, that's because when I had Arch, I had an epidural, so I didn't feel anything down there. This time, I could feel it, and it wasn't pleasant. It was like the weirdest feeling ever, and I would not like to go through that again. No, thank you. And I just remember being on the bed, Jay sat in the chair next to the side of the hospital bed holding the baby, just looking at me like, what's happened? They then put the baby back on me just to help, like, with the placenta and to distract me from what was going on down below. Somehow, no bleeding, no excessive blood loss, no need for intervention, no pain relief, no stitches required, nothing. And yeah, the weirdest feeling ever. They checked me over, and then once they'd done checks on the baby, they were like, right, do you want some toast and a cup of tea? I was like, yeah, okay. The strangest thing was, I remember when I gave birth to Arch, we were put on the ward, and then when we were on the ward, I then had a shower like the next morning and I cleaned myself up. Oh no, I was like showered in this room, and I had freshened myself up, I had brushed my hair, I had put clean clothes on, I'd got comfy clothes on, and I was like ready. Like if they'd have said to me in that moment, you can go home, I'd have gone home. But because I had gestational diabetes, this one had to go on the hypo pathway, and we had to stay in overnight. Overnight experience on the ward was so much better this time compared to what it was last time. I think I was just in an awful like bay last time, whereas this time it was a little bit more chilled. There was 2 other people that had had their babies, 2 by cesarean, and then everyone else was on inductions. So they were hooked up to machines like monitoring their baby's movements, or they were having gels and stuff to have contractions. And then there was just us with our little bubba doing feeds every 3 hours. And yeah, it felt really, really weird. And then the next morning, as soon as they opened the doors, Jay went home. I freshened myself up, got myself like ready, like freshened up a little bit more. And the baby had had the hypo pathway like pass completely fine. We were ready, and they then did the hearing check, and I'll talk about that in the 4th trimester video. There will be one of those coming. I just need to film it. And then they were like, right, you can go home. So at 11 o'clock the next morning, I gave birth at 8 p.m. dead on the dot, which is the funniest thing ever. We literally pulled into the car, into the entrance bit of like the turn circle outside the hospital where you drop people off at 8 p.m. and the baby literally came out of me at 8 p.m, which is crazy. But by 11 a.m. the next day, I was discharged. And the funny thing is like you've had a baby, and like the first time you do it, it feels really weird that you have a baby and then they let you leave. The second time, it's kind of like, oh no, I do want to just go home. And we came home. We came home with this little bundle, and I remember walking in the front door. Jay was carrying the car seat, and I remember just walking in the front door, and Archie was stood at the door, and I just remember grabbing him, holding him, and sniffing him. If you're a mum, you'll understand the sniff. And I was just sniffing him, and it felt so good to just be home. The weirdest, most wildest labour story I've ever experienced, where I genuinely thought I was going to have to give birth on the side of the A5 in a lay-by, but instead we managed to drive to the hospital and somehow get to the entrance and give birth as a midwife is at my car door. The craziest story ever. But would I do it again? No. Would I like to experience the contractions and like the speed of it and the fast pacedness of having a labour like that ever again? No. But would I change it? No, because the wildest story ever, wildest story to tell you, but also it just meant that I'm a firm believer in what's meant to happen happens, and what's meant to be will be. And giving birth the way we did, well, the way I did, I'll take it. And the fact that I didn't give birth in the house, I'll take it. I'll definitely take it. That's my birth story. And little one is here. so perfect, so content, so in love, so obsessed, and just beyond grateful, especially after everything that we've gone through. Beyond grateful to get to experience this. It's an absolute blessing and a half. There is no feeling like it. My heart honestly burst with how much love I've got for my boys now, and the absolute like admiration and love I have for Jay, just for like him being able to put up with everything that's happened over the last few years that we've been through, and having to watch your partner go through a pregnancy and a labor. Like, I can't even begin to comprehend how hard that must be on our birth partners. So an absolute awe of the incredible person that he is, and that's my birth story. Bit of a wild one. We've told the tale. If you did like the video, please do give it a like. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and I will see you all in the next video.